All right, guys, welcome to the Outdoorpreneurs Podcast, episode 2, where I talk about how to take your passion for the outdoors and turn it into a business. The Olympics and the XFL. I'm serious. Let's talk about the XFL first. I mean, that was very interesting. I wanted to hit on this when Vince McMahon announced this, I don't know, what was it, like a month ago now or a couple of weeks ago now? I know a lot of people are probably thinking, oh, great, here we go again, the XFL. That's a pretty smart business person. And if you look closely, there's a couple of things that are worth study. One of the ways to study business is to study what other businesses do, both the good ones and the bad ones, the successes and the failures. That way you know what the heck's going on. As a kid in the 70s watching wrestling, you had these territories. There was Alabama was a territory, and Mississippi was a territory. In Tennessee, you had several territories, and you would just go down to the National Guard Armory every Friday night or every other Friday night, whatever, and watch wrestling. You get to watch Junkyard Dog and Hacksaw Jim Duggan. You'd see Andre the Giant, all these guys. Now, I never saw it, but that is the way it was, and that's kind of how I remember seeing advertising for wrestling at the National Guard Armory. Then along comes this young tycoon named Vince McMahon, and I guess he inherited his dad's wrestling company called WWF. His territory was the New York, the Madison Square Garden. Everybody wanted to get to Madison Square Garden to wrestle. And Vince McMahon had this, I don't know how the timing of it, but he eventually ended up buying up a lot of these territories or buying the TV time in these territories to have essentially his wrestling show. And so wrestling went from this sort of regional territorial thing to this national thing. There was a new technology back in the late 70s, early 80s called closed circuit television. He found a young wrestler, Terry Hogan, Hulk Hogan that we all know, put on a big match with Paul Orndorff, and he called it WrestleMania 1. It was a whole big thing, pay-per-view. You pay your money, and then you go to a place and watch it on closed circuit television. Hottest technology of the day. If you go watch some of these documentaries where they're interviewing people, he really bet the farm to get WrestleMania out. And it was a resounding success. WrestleMania 2 did pretty well. Then WrestleMania 3 was the big match between Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan. And Vince McMahon kind of bet the farm again. I get boom, and that sort of became the WWF that we know. And then the whole Monday Night Wars, and then that became WWE. Vince McMahon has bet the farm before and greatly benefited. So when he went to the XFL 20 years ago, 19 years, whatever it was, that's perfect. He does that kind of thing and is usually quite successful. It was a total flop. It was, a lot of things were out of place. The wrong time, the wrong product, the wrong brand. It was this hard edge. It was the whole attitude era in wrestling, this sort of rebellious, crazy thing. And it just, the colors were black and red, and it was just hard edge. And it just, well, it's 20 years later. Go watch the Vince McMahon XFL news release today, and you see a completely different Vince McMahon. One, he sounds like a gruffy old man, right? Right. But he looks like he's learned a lot. If you look at the logo of the XFL, the colors are red, white, and blue. Now, he doesn't trash the NFL or any other players, but do you think he's saying something about these football players who are kneeling or not showing up for the national anthem or whatever? You think he's saying something? He's putting his own personal money into this. Before, he was partnered with, I guess, NBC or whatever, and it was 50-50 thing, and usually those things are kind of a bad deal. And the thing is, Vince McMahon's going to retain control over the league. He is paying the players. The players are not going to have the platform to use it like they do in the NFL. It's a good business lesson, and it's worth keeping track of. Watch it from here until, look at how they roll out the XFL from now. Here it is, the beginning of 2018, till they launch it probably this time around 2020. Just watch. That's 2 years that you can study this thing. About once a month, kind of type into Google XFL 2020 or whatever, or on Twitter or whatever. Just see what kind of articles come up. Start reading them. You can learn something about how to roll out a product. There's not a book that can teach you how to do that. There's not a class you can take to teach you how to do that. You just have to watch somebody like Vince McMahon take this risk, look at where it goes. Whether it's a success or failure, you're going to learn something that you can use in your business. There's nothing wrong with courses. I've taken plenty of courses. There's nothing wrong with books. I've read many books. But business is dynamic and changes from day to day, and you need to learn from people who are doing it day in and day out, and especially People like Vince McMahon, who've been doing this a long time and have learned a lot of things along the way, can teach us all something. Point two, the Olympics. Man, I had the honor of going over some friends' houses on Sunday night, and I got to see the ice skating, I got to see the moguls, I got to see some sort of downhill snowboarding where it's like, but they go downhill, but they do these jumps and they do this, and it's sort of like downhill ski jump, but it's actually a snowboard with an X Games twist to it. It's pretty cool, right? I love the Olympics. It is my favorite thing. The Olympics are utterly humanizing. What does it mean to be human? What is humanity capable of? And what are we not capable of? You will see that during every Olympic cycle. You see the great victories, the agonies of defeat, all that stuff, right? There was a French mogul lady who won she was the first female skier to win the moguls for France gold. And she was just bawling. She just couldn't believe that she won. And she's just done this great thing for her country and for she just cried. She couldn't contain herself. And the journalist comes up and interviews her. Hey, how does it make you feel? All these kind of things. She's bawling. I'm just so tired. And poor lady probably hadn't slept since she got to, I can't pronounce the place. It's South Korea. And it's like, oh my goodness, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I love about the Olympics. We're stuck with NBC, and that's another point. Look at it. Look at the way NBC is broadcasting the Olympics. Look at how an incredible, abysmal failure it is every single time, where they just simply cannot get it right. There's probably a reason you don't see too many sports on NBC, because they're not good at it. And it's frustrating that the only play I only get a chance to see my countrymen on a world stage competing every essentially 2 years. You have the Winter Olympics and the Summer Olympics. Winter Olympics is my favorite because I'm not familiar with any of these sports. I live in a warm climate, Alabama. Summer Olympics, you see people running track, doing basketball, baseball, all the time. Winter Olympics, curling, and these people, biathletes, these cross-country skiers, and their long shots, and it's just awesome. It's just the most awesomest stuff ever. And then there's the comments about the poor Koreans were under Japanese control, World War II. It was horrible. I remember reading. You want to read a good book on how horrible it was with Japan, read the book Flying Tigers by Daniel Ford. It's about the Chinese Air Force and the American Volunteer Force, but there was a lot of atrocities there. And for NBC to put broadcasters on stage with people who are not familiar enough with the history to understand, you cannot say these things without greatly hurting people. And in that part of the world, especially Southeast Asia, they are an honor-based society. You cannot go over there dishonoring people. And that's one of the reasons why people hate America, because we're arrogant, we think we have it all, and the fact is we don't. I can relate to that here in the South. Race relations are something that are very serious here. If there were a Southern news company over there, they would have understood, okay, China, Japan, we got to be careful of this because we have to deal with this all the time. But the point is, you need to be mindful of the people you're serving. When you're in business, you're serving people. NBC is supposed to be serving us, but yet they just show up and just broadcast the Olympics any way they want just because they're NBC and they've been around since. And we should just be grateful that they're covering the Olympics when in fact they do a very poor job and they're not actually giving us what we want. Another business lesson to learn. USA, we won bronze in the team ice competition. I guess there was ice dancing, there was figure skating, there was whatever. I don't know all the categories, but absolutely beautiful. Just absolutely the artist in me just sings when I see these skaters. I don't care what country they're from, man. I mean, you see these guys and you see these ladies and they're just, how do they do that? Even if they're like, it doesn't matter if they're Russian or Japanese or Canadian. It doesn't matter. Who cares? I just want to see some skating. You think watching the beauty of that doesn't inspire me to get on the fly tying vise and to try some new designs? was tweeting today about, oh gosh, I was just a horrible day on the fly tying vice because I have a lady friend who wants some flies, and she wants peacock herl and iridescence and all kinds of things. I just could not get it, and it was so frustrating. It was like one of those ice dancers. They do a move and they fall, or they just couldn't quite land right, or the one person who jumps off the ramp and the wind catches them and they're just having to take everything they got and they just bam, flat on their back, and they just have to get up and try to finish or whatever. Or just, if you want to see the Olympics, what the Olympics really should look like here in America, watch any of the Red Bull athletic events. These guys know how to broadcast sports, and they know how to do it in a way that gets all the corporate bureaucracy out of the way and get to the heart of the sport, because that's the heart of their company. They have these energy drinks. They sponsor crazy sports. They sponsor a guy who's going to jump from skydive in outer space. They have this stuff called ice cross downhill or crashed ice, where guys dress up in full hockey suits, and it's like motocross downhill on ice. And these guys are, it's the most amazing thing you see. Just check them out on YouTube. Look at the way they cover the sports. Far more interesting than anything we see on NBC. NBC wants to do these fireside chats, but still just too much talking, not enough coverage. Not giving the customers what they want, they're just doing whatever they want. And that creates a sort of marketplace arrogance. And so that's, my friends, is my thoughts on the Olympics. If you guys are interested in starting your own business based on your love and the passion for the outdoors, check out my Outdoorpreneurs forums. They're up. Talk to people. We can talk about these things far more in depth than we could just here. And check out TubeBuddy. I have an affiliate link to show you how to market your YouTube channel in the right way, to position your videos so you can just get ranked up front, get more subscribers, get more views, all that kind of stuff. I will talk to you later.